I never thought that eating a pizza could be a traumatic experience. Hey, what's up? I'm Rafael Furia, aka Rafi D is me, and I am back at it again on another beautiful Friday night. And this week we are going to talk about a little something near and dear to my heart. Being an expat, living life abroad, very much something that we have spoken about here on this channel before. And some of these topics we have talked about somewhat recently, but there's a different aspect that I would like to talk about this week. There have been a couple private messages that I received where people seem to be thinking that I was actually maybe complaining about living in Italy, and I very clearly was saying that no, these are things that are, like in my last week's video, these are things that I have learned to laugh about. These are things that I've just taken in stride, and now I'm used to these things, and it doesn't make a big difference to me. But what I will complain about, not Italy, expats in Italy. Expats just anywhere. But before we get too much deeper into the video, if you would like to see more content like this about moving to Italy, Italian dual citizenship, and living life abroad, please be sure to subscribe with that notification bell turned on. And if you could also give this video a like and share it with your friends, I would really appreciate it, as it does help out the channel. And of course, if you would like to help out the channel in another way and help to make content like this possible, you can go to rafaeldifuria.com/Patreon or rafaeldifuria.com/support to just help out once. And for shirts, baby onesies, mugs, and more with Italy-centric designs, you can go to rafaeldifuria.com/NYAG gear. All of the links are down below. And of course, again, as always, a huge thank you to those of you who are helping to make video content like this possible on a monthly basis. You guys are amazing. And before we get too much deeper into the video, just a quick question for you guys. For those of you who are living in Italy or have lived abroad before anywhere or are living abroad, what were the things that you didn't expect and that were part of your expectations that you found out that were quite different? Something that maybe you were happy to find out, or maybe something that you were happy didn't meet that expectation, or something that completely took you by surprise. And for those of you who've never lived abroad or are thinking to move abroad, what are some of the expectations that are kind of driving you towards moving to where you would like to move? And where is it that you want to move to? But what about this whole subject that I was just starting to talk about? Yeah, this one's a tricky one. Look, I'll put it this way. In general, in the expat community, especially Americans, British, Australians, and then there's the whole question of what's an expat? What do people call an expat? Are Americans expat? Are people from Brazil expats? Like, whatever. I use expat and foreigner quite interchangeably, so if you hear me switching back and forth, just understand that. If you have a different definition than I do, then hey, whatever. This is the definition I'm using here. Even though I've kind of called out a few nationalities, I think this goes for all nationalities, is that people have a very unrealistic expectation of when they move to a new country about what life is going to be like. They are going to expect that we're going to talk about Italy specifically, but this kind of goes for a lot of different places. You see, especially in the movies about Italy, there's this romantic idea of driving around on a Vespa, the pizza pasta and amore, as I call it. This is why I put it on a t-shirt, is because it's partially a joke, but it's something real. It's okay. This is not a problem. If this is something that attracts you to the country. And yes, this is something that definitely can be part of your life. But a lot of people come to Italy expecting that is the everyday, that is every little moment. That is every part of the full experience here, where that is only one small part of it. In life, you have to have a balance. Definitely have to have a balance. And to just be doing that, just living that dolce vita, it's a complete imbalance if that's all you're doing. But there is the reality of life, and living in Italy, living anywhere. It doesn't matter. You go to Germany, France, Spain, Portugal, Brazil, Argentina, Vietnam, Cambodia, wherever it may be that you want to go. It's very important to have those clear expectations and to make sure that those expectations are realistic. I'm always seeing in a lot of online expat communities, complaint after complaint after complaint. Oh, this country is like this. Oh, the locals are like that. Oh, why don't they do it more like this? Back where I'm from, we do things so much more efficiently, and just it goes on and on from there. But there are some online communities that I think are actually really wonderful and really helpful to people. Like there's one online expat community that I can think of off the top of my head, which I know is very helpful on Facebook, called Ultimate Italy. I think it's a really great resource for information. And I don't think I've ever really seen any posts on there like really really whining or complaining. But yeah, I think it's actually a really great group. And if you've never heard of the group and you're wanting to join, feel free to let them know that you heard about the group through this video. The thing is, you can't go to a country expecting that that country is going to be the same as where you're arriving to. If you're from San Francisco, California, you can't expect that Milan or Como, wherever you end up in Italy, or Palermo, whatever little town, city, big city, small city, whatever it's going to be, you can't expect that you're going to have every aspect of your life be the same. Okay, there will be constants, that's without a doubt. But if you go to Starbucks and you get your venti frappa mocha chica wicca carmelado whatever thing with the sprinkles on top, you're not going to be able to find that in a lot of places. Granted, Starbucks does exist in other countries. It's not as widespread as it is in the States, but I think you might get what I'm trying to get at here. Like in Italy, you're not going to find that. Italy may not be the best example of this, but when you're around Italy, you're not going to find those kind of types of drinks. There is a Starbucks now in Milan, but they don't do those American style drinks. They do more of an Italian take with that Seattle Roasters feel, is what I've been told. It's actually one day I really want to go check out that Starbucks. It's like, it sounds sacrilegious, but I'm actually quite curious to see. But why a coffee place would need a bouncer out front, that's just beyond me. Anyway, to expect that every facet of your life will be the same, even the little things, the big things, that you're going to be able to go and shop. Like I mentioned last week, to go shopping for clothing and find those same sizes as where you live. That's been a big problem for me, but that's like, whatever. Okay, I accept that. You have to accept the positive aspects of the life with the negative aspects in life, no matter where you're going. If you're going to Italy, if you're going to another country. And I've heard so many complaints from expats about things not working a certain way, or just that the streets might be dirty, or the sanitation services might be different. And okay, fine. There's something to be said for if the city doesn't come and pick up trash for a month. That's one thing. But if that's something that is maybe not unheard of in that country, you've got to be accepting of that and realize that is part of what you signed up for. Again, it's the balance of the good with the bad. Hopefully you have more experiences that are positive than negative, but to go into a place and expect that you're going into this new life and finally things are just going to be the way that I need them to be, that I want them to be, it's not going to be. You're not going to find that. If you're escaping a particular type of situation, it's not guaranteed that you're going to be able to escape that completely. I mean, if it's a certain internal problem, if it's an external problem, that's a different story. But if it's an internal problem, you need to work on that first. There are, of course, those times when the internal problems become external, the external becomes an internal issue. Relationships, for example. If someone's in a toxic relationship, then that could be an external which becomes an internal, or it could be the internal which is developed externally. So when you're looking for that new, that different, that experience, it's important to remember that that experience is not the everyday. A lot of people have this idea about Italy being this wonderful vacation destination. And a lot of people who move to Italy come to Italy with that mentality that it is a vacation destination. It's not a place where you can really make a life for yourself, but that is very necessary wherever you move. That you're not living in vacation every day. And the experiences that you may have had on your vacation will very likely not be your everyday experience. I don't think I've mentioned this in a video before, but I remember one comment in particular, because I'd been posting on my Instagram photos of Venice, and I'd taken a bunch of photos and I was posting them every so often. I think someone in particular said, "Oh wow, are you thinking about moving to Venice? Oh, it's totally perfect for you, it's this and that." And then I know I've spoken to other people, "Oh, I loved Venice there when I was there. It was such a great vacation. I loved it. I wish I could move there." But a place like Venice, just as an example, it could be anywhere, but a top tourist destination like that is very difficult to make your home. Yeah, you could be living in this beautiful place, but what's the reality of living there? In the winter, flooding, you need your big rain boot. If you're living in a ground floor place that's right next to a canal, will the water come into your home every year? Like, these things you got to think about. Or hardware store. Where's a hardware store if you need one? Or if you need to go to a grocery store. Okay, fine. Venice has grocery stores. It's not like it's impossible to find a supermarket, but there's few and far between. You can find places to buy food, but everything is very geared towards tourism. This would not be the case necessarily if you're thinking about going to a smaller village or a smaller town, but if you're thinking about going to a smaller village or town and you're trying to get into that quietness, that life out in the country, but then maybe, are you ready for that, especially if you're coming from a big city? Is that expectation realistic that you can make that transition from big city life to small village life and deal with that isolation? Okay, absolutely. There are people who very much need that need to just be on their own. And there's nothing wrong with that. But do your expectations meet that reality of what the situation is actually like there? And when those expectations aren't met, when the expectations are not based on reality, it seems like it's more common for these complaints to start coming up. And for like a lot of expat online communities, oh, these locals, these this, these that, start coming up more and more. Oh, where can I find my McDonald's? Where can I find my Taco Bell? Even those of you who've been following me on Instagram will know about the stories that I posted up on Thursday on the Bachelor Gourmet story that I've got there. It's still pinned, so if you're wanting to check that out, I still have that up about a particular thing that I was wanting to make, something that I'm not going to say what it is in this video. If you want to find out what it was, you can go to my Instagram, but it's something that I really enjoyed growing up. You could go and get it for very cheap, and you could go get really good stuff, authentic stuff, just on the side of a street, and it was just, that's normal. That was part of life. If you try to find that same type of cuisine here in Italy, if you can find it at all, it's almost impossible. It's usually overpriced, and the one time that I've tried it, it was so bad, and the quality was disgusting. I was there with an Italian friend who happened to live in the States and also enjoys this type of food. And we were just so disappointed because we were expecting the same thing that we know from these places that you go to in the States. It's so easy to find this good and simple, delicious food. So what I ended up doing was, okay, this is part of what it is to be here in Italy. Okay, fine, to find some of these ingredients may not be the easiest, but this is what I've accepted as the reality here. So I went and I made it for myself. But there are times, for example, I also love burgers. That you guys will know if you've been watching my videos. I've for sure spoken about burgers here on my channel. A double bacon cheeseburger. Oh, hell yeah. I am definitely a burger connoisseur. I've tried burgers on 3 continents so far. Looking to raise that up a little bit higher, but wait, 3? No, 4 continents. I have tried burgers on 4 continents, and I am quite proud of that. Looking to raise that up a little bit higher, but not important. Burgers are something that I very much enjoy, and I very much get disappointed when I go to places and I'm looking for that burger experience like I know from back in the old country. And when I don't get that same thing, it's a very disappointing experience to go spend that money and just to not find that same flavor. And there's this one place locally that opened up a couple months ago that I started going to, and they do a good burger, but it's just, there's something about the taste. It just isn't the same. And yeah, I enjoy it, but there was something missing. It was almost like some of the soul was missing. And I've been to burger places, not this one, but where the burger, it was kind of like the person had heard about what a burger was once in a movie and they have a vague idea of what it's supposed to be, but they've never had the real deal. But this place, again, it was delicious. But one day I saw someone there who had tried this thing and it looked like this really delicious wrap. I wasn't quite sure what it was. And the owner just happened to be standing there. And I said, hey, what's this thing? It looks like a burrito. He was like, yeah, it's a burrito, but it's not a burrito. And so he explained to me what it was. And I ended up deciding to try it. And it wasn't a burrito by any means. It's just burrito in name. And it was delicious. It was very much an Italian take on a wrap. Not a piadina, because a piadina is more of a different sort of thing. It looks like a tortilla, but it's very, very, very different. They take like a very thin pizza dough and they melt cheese on top of that with yellow cheddar cheese and some other white cheese, I would assume mozzarella. And that's a tough thing to find in this country. Yellow cheese. Do not even get me started on trying to find that. It seems like it's becoming easier to find, but to find a good, like even a cheddar, like a basic, simple, delicious cheddar, very difficult. anyway. Then they put that into the oven. They let that bake. Then they put grilled chicken breast on it that's been sliced up with lettuce and sauces and Tabasco, and it is delicious. But it's an Italian take. It's like an Italian-American fusion, but it's not Italian-American food. It's American-Italian food, I guess. And it was just really a wonderful experience to start embracing more what the locals wanted to eat. I have these things that I want to eat, these things that I know that I'm familiar with. But once you start exploring those other local things, then you'll start experiencing things in a way that really is more enjoyable or can be more enjoyable. But of course, there are times, and I'm just using food here as an example. This could be transposed onto other aspects of life, but this I feel as though is a really easy thing to talk about, food. But then, of course, there are times when you try to embrace something that's a bit uncomfortable for you. And going back to a food example, I was recently out with some friends and we decided to go for pizza. I was completely out of it because I had been working all day and I was just like, I just want a good pizza. I feel like having something with mushrooms and salamino picante. In Italy, they call pepperoni salami picante or salamino picante. Pepperoni is just regular peppers, just if you're ever here. And so I felt like having something with both of those things on it. And then I was like, okay, maybe I'll get it with like some black olives too. And then I saw this one pizza had mushrooms and I just was so out of it. I didn't read the menu carefully enough. The pizza comes out and I see mushrooms on there, but there's all this like weird other stuff on top. And I'm just like, okay, whatever. And it looked like almost these like strands of chili pepper that had been shredded and just, it looked really delicious. And then I was like, that doesn't quite look like pepper. It almost looks like saffron, but it couldn't be saffron because it was this giant pile of this saffron looking stuff. And if you were to have a whole pile of saffron like that, it probably would be thousands of euros. It wouldn't be just a normal, simple, off the menu kind of pizza. And so I was looking at it, I was kind of poking at it with my fork and I was like, what is this? And one of my friends said, oh, it's horse. I was like, excuse me? Horse? He's like, yeah, of course. I'm really not trying to make a joke with that. In Italy, one thing that's common is that people do eat horse and rabbit and these things that for an American wouldn't be a normal food item. It wouldn't be one of those things that we generally would eat. But here in Italy, it's a normal thing. I know a few people who've told me, yeah, when I was little, my grandparents used to cook me a piece of horse. And they said, yeah, it's supposed to be good for children. It makes you grow big and strong. And then just on actually a side note, it actually happens to be quite high in iron. But yeah, so there was this pizza with this horse meat on top. It just kind of shredded in a pile. I never thought that eating a pizza could be a traumatic experience. Oh gosh. Yeah, so I tried to get as much off as I could and I just was like trying to tough through it, but it's probably the first time that I've ever not finished a personal sized pizza. Again, we're talking about food here, but this type of situation you can transpose it onto other things in life. If you're trying new experiences, if you're trying something even at work and you're put into a position, maybe that position doesn't work for you, but what are you expecting? Sometimes it's good to go in with no expectations, but even sometimes going in with no expectations doesn't quite work out. I for sure tried to go in with no expectations about this horse thing, but I just couldn't mentally get past that blockage that even though the taste wasn't all that bad, it was just so different for me. And just the mentality that I grew up with that horses are riding for. Hell, I watched Mr. Ed as a kid. Yeah, I'm young. I'm very young to have watched Mr. Ed. But I just was thinking like, I'm just cutting up this pizza and I'm like, I'm sorry, Mr. Ed. I feel like a horrible person. I'm sorry. Just don't judge me, Mr. Ed. It all comes down to this reference of where you're from, what you know about. And sometimes when you're developing these expectations and these ideas, it's very difficult to develop a proper idea of what the situation really is, especially if you've never experienced it before, living abroad. If you've never lived abroad before, but you've only traveled abroad, your only experience, your only reality is having traveled, is only in that vacation mode. Or even if it's for a few months or a few weeks, a few days, that's what your reality is. That's what your experience is. And you can do a lot of research, which is very valuable. That's why I try to put these videos out, is to try and give as much information as I can, the information that I know I was looking for before I really was living abroad. But even with as much as I talk about, if you ever get to a point where it's like, yeah, right, whatever, like I'm sure that there's been points, if you've watched enough of my videos, yeah, right, it couldn't be like that. No way, no, he's just exaggerating. No, you'll get to a point where I've had that with other people who were telling me about life abroad, like in personal situations, in real life. And I was like, yeah, come on, really? Then you get to that point. It's like, oh, yeah, okay, now I understand it. Once certain things enter into your reality, then it makes sense. But sometimes before that point, you just don't get there. And that's not a bad thing. This is just how we work. When we're trying to develop these ideas, we can only draw from what we know. So research, getting all of the information and looking up as much as you can beforehand, talking to people, doing a pilot trip and taking that time to research that area and actually be there for a little while before committing to living there is very worthwhile if you have the financial ability to do it. I did not in my situation, and I had enough under my belt that I felt comfortable to make that jump. But sometimes for some people, taking a jump like that, totally worthwhile. And sometimes for other people, oh, hell no. Absolutely the worst thing to do. It just depends on you, who you are, and how you process the world around you. Anyway, I hope that this video has been helpful or at least got you to think about things a little bit. And of course, if you'd like to see more content like this about moving to Italy, Italian dual citizenship, and living life abroad, please be sure to subscribe with that notification bell turned on. And if you could also give this video a like and share it with your friends, that would be much appreciated. And if you'd like to help make more content like this possible on a monthly basis, you can go to rafaeldifuria.com/Patreon. Or if you can only help out just one time, you can go to rafaeldifuria.com/support. Or for shirts, baby onesies, mugs, and more, you can go to rafaeldifuria.com/NYAG gear. And of course, as always, I'm Rafael Di Furia, aka Rafi D is me. Thank you so much for joining me on another beautiful Friday night. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend and a fantastic week coming up. I look forward to seeing you all next Friday. Later.